on the East Coast. It is 5 o'clock on the West Coast. It is the 29th of February in the year 2024. I had to say that and think about it there for a minute. 655 times you have been welcomed to the Clubhouse Podcast, Season 14, Episode 20. Welcome. We're very glad that you're with us. My name is Rob. I am the executive producer of the Clubhouse Podcast. And right now I'm by myself. Alex is on his way. Don is out on assignment. We are so glad that you are with us on Leap Day, which maybe that's why I titled it's over there on my screen. I don't know how it looks on yours, but I think this may be the first time we've ever done a show on Leap Day. I mean, we've been 14 years. So we've only had this is the third time we've had the opportunity. So Lord only knows. For those of you joining us for the first time, we are your one-stop shop for all things sports, entertainment, pop culture, and professional wrestling. So we got that going for us, which is nice. I'm not used to. It's been a long time since I've done this alone. Like I said, Alex, I think, is having some technical difficulties. He'll be here in just a few moments, I'm sure. Got a lot going on in the world that we cover for you. We don't really go too deep into things unless it's something we feel the need to. Kind of a stick and move show. I've been told before that this show does operate at the speed of light, and that's okay. A couple of things I want to remind you of. Make sure you're checking out some of our favorite shows. First of all, Matinee Heroes, hosted by friends of the show, Craig Price and Alan Cerny. That drops every Saturday. They pick a different movie each week, and they talk about it. I was on there recently talking about The Godfather Part 2. All February long, they have been doing a salute to their favorite Patreon episodes, and that's been a lot of fun. They get the wheels back on this coming Saturday. Also dropping on Thursdays is The Movies That Make Us or Made Us. That's by some friends of ours up in Utah. They do a great job as well. And here he is. All right. We have you now.
Yeah, better late than never.
No, it's all right. I've been stalling. I've been talking about some of the podcasts that we check out. So that way, because I don't want to go into this without you here. Now, he's that way. He's my co-host. And I'm not used to seeing your blinds open. He is Alex.
Well, it's kind of more along the lines of it has been very stormy on this side of town. I don't know how it's been for you.
It's been kind of spotty out here.
None of the animals are fans of it. So if they can see it, they tend to respond better to it when they come out from under the bed.
Did not think of that. Well played.
Well, I only look this stupid.
I never said you were.
I never said you did.
Okay.
But this is the internet. Somebody thinks we look stupid.
I'm going to say that list might be long and distinguished for me. I'm just saying.
I don't know if it's distinguished, but it's long.
So, and for those of you that don't know, Alex does live in an area where internet can get spotty, especially when the weather gets bad. So if there's certain technical
pros and cons of by a lake.
Exactly. So we just want to make sure people that maybe they haven't joined us before, if there's some wheels that start to get a little jittery, that's going to be why. Let us dive right in. Talk about NBA standings.
Garbage.
But you don't have to say it much longer. We've only got 2 more months. Actually,
doesn't make it not garbage even when it's not around.
Almost my birthday now. I don't know.
The only thing I don't care about in this scope is I need people to calm down and be like, oh, give LeBron's son a chance. It's like, yeah, what about the other ones that also get their play accurately described but don't have a famous father? Please shut up and move on.
That's why I try to just shut out all the chatter.
Yeah.
Because it's that time of year where there's not a whole heck of a lot going on. You're coming out of both All-Star breaks. The NFL's done. Major League Baseball, it's preseason in any sport. You know how I feel about that. We're really not even worried about college basketball for about another 2 weeks, maybe.
But we have the interesting thing is we have that dichotomy, and I'll get into it more when we get to the wrestling side because I'm sure you have a note that compares.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just a lot going on. Let's dive right in. NBA Eastern Conference Atlantic Division, the Toronto Raptors. They're not doing well. I
Well,
did
there's an
see
exchange rate.
hiding in the championship odds, according to the Yahoo, that I found interesting that we'll get to when we get to NHL. They're 24 and a half games back.
That's a
They're
little late
2
for that.
more games back than their win total right now.
God,
They are a half game
because
back.
the NBA.
Yeah, they are a half game back on Brooklyn. The Nets are 11 games back on the Sixers. Sixers now a game and a half back on New York, but Boston, who's won 9 in a row, is now 11 and a half up on the Knicks.
I was going to say, it's only 9 in a row. They must have had a day off in there.
Well, there's another one we'll talk about when we get to hockey too. But I
Fair.
mean, you look at, yeah, they're what? They're 9-1 in their last 10, so that's why. Like, yeah. Boston is just steamrolling everybody right now, but nothing matters till the playoffs. So, in the Central Division, the Detroit Pistons, former champs of basketball, they have 9 wins, but they're not the worst team in the NBA. Actually, I think it's tied now. Actually, but they're actually 5 games worse than the other team with the same record as them. So they got that going for it. They could quadruple their win total and still be like 2 games out. They're 29 games back. They are 19 and a half back on the Bulls.
Who By the way, that exactly setting the world on fire.
Just to put it in perspective, Detroit's won 9 more games than me. So there's that. Chicago is 5.5 back on the Pacers. The Pacers 4.5 back on Milwaukee. The Bucks now a half game back on Cleveland, who after delivering the hammer to the Mavericks the other night, they lost after that. Actually, it was 2 nights ago because they lost last night. So Milwaukee staying competitive. In the Southeast Division, the Washington Wizards had the same record as the Detroit Pistons, but they're, like I said, 5 games closer to first place because they're 24 out. They are 6 back on Charlotte. Charlotte is 11 back on Atlanta. Atlanta 6.5 back in Orlando. Orlando now a half game back on the Heat, who have retaken first place on a 5-game win streak. For those of you playing the home game, Washington's lost 12 in a row.
Because Washington. When is there a win in Washington?
Western Conference Pacific Division, the Golden State Warriors. Oh, this is the most competitive division in the NBA right now. They are 30-27 and in last place.
I want to say traditionally it is one of the most competitive too, because it's the owners that don't have as much, but they care more.
Well, Golden State to first place is only 7 games right now.
Right. But what I'm saying is if it's Golden State in last, as much as we make fun of the dynasty being over, still not a bad team. They're just not good.
Well, but again, they're above 500 and they're in last place, which tells you everything you need to know about that division.
Exactly.
Because they're only a half game back on the Lakers. Lakers now 2 back on Sacramento. Sacramento now a game back on Phoenix, and the Suns are 3.5 back on the Clippers. So there's that.
What do you think about the Clippers rebranding?
I needed to look at. I need to look that up. I'm going to look that up real quick.
So I kind of see where they're going with it. I dig the idea of trying to simplify, give it its own look or something, but I feel, in my opinion, it might be just a little too busy. And I prefer my logos very straightforward, but it's not bad.
It's not terrible. I'm looking at it right now.
Are you looking at the Clipper logo with the C?
Yes. Yeah. And the compass inside of it and the cruise ship inside of that.
The cruise ship?
That's what it looks like.
It's called a Clipper.
I know. That's why it's a ship, but it looks like a cruise ship.
I feel like you need to put it up on screen while we're talking about this so people aren't just wondering, what are we?
And Frank Isola, he actually said the same thing on Around the Horn the other day, and then it got
okay
in my head. Let me see. Let me move this to a new
because it's not that it really isn't that it doesn't look like a cruise ship. I had not heard that before.
Let me go. I can share it now. One moment, please. Share screen. Boy, this thing is taking its time today. Here we go.
Yeah, it is.
That is what we're looking at right now.
Okay, yeah, that's the one I actually really like.
I mean, it's classy.
Yeah. It a little too busy in the center for me, but I see what they're doing with it.
Are the players gonna come out of the tunnel to Hot by Buster Poindexter?
No, they're gonna come out to Smooth Sailing.
Oh, I'm here for that. New team captain. 19 people know what we're talking about.
Now at Point Waterboy, Ashley Remington.
And in the Southwest Division, the Spurs, well, they're in double-digit wins now, so they're better than the Pistons and the Wizards.
They almost have as many heights as feet. Wemby's height.
23 and a half back in that division.
Oof.
And they're 11 back of Memphis. Memphis now 5.5 back of Houston. The Rockets are 8.5 back on Dallas, who's now a half game back on Fly Pelican. In the Northwest Division, because they're North and West, most of them. Portland, they're 26 back. They got 15 wins, though. They got that going for them.
I feel like the league is always better when Portland is good.
They're 9 back on the Jazz. The Jazz now 13 back on Denver. Denver a game and a half back on Oklahoma City. And the Thunder now a half game back on Minnesota. Now, probably starting in a couple of weeks, we'll start putting the playoff picture together because we're getting close, but we're not there yet.
And let's be honest, their playoff picture has started to resemble NASCAR.
Yeah. Ugh.
Well, I'm not against it, but holy crap.
Well, did you see the college football headline today?
Which one?
2026. Now they want to do 14 teams.
Oh, I've seen that one being discussed, and people are not
guaranteed to the SEC, 3 guaranteed to the Big Ten, 2 guaranteed to the ACC, 2 guaranteed to the Pac, however many there are going to be, and then like 3 at large.
The Pac-7.
I'm just like this. Like, I love the playoff system, but please don't turn this into March Madness because
12 is the right number. 12 is 100% the right number.
I agree.
But there is one problem with it. And we can talk about that more later, unless you want to get into it now.
Well, I've got no other college football headlines.
Okay, but we were in the middle of NBA. That's why.
No, we just finished NBA.
Oh, okay. The one problem I have with this is, have you seen who the top 4 are for that setup?
Who, based on what it would have been this year, or based on
what the rule is allegedly?
I know. I thought that the top that each one comes from a power conference.
It is the power conference champion of the top 4. The top 4 ranked conference champions,
and then 8 at large.
And then yes,
okay.
But here's where my issue comes in. To use Don logic, since we don't have to worry about getting bogged down today, if there's no conference championship that has 1 win, okay, follow me on this because conferences have difficulty, and you have a team like, and I'm trying to think of something that isn't mid-major because that's too far. It's not a Liberty, but like a Boise. Like Boise is a quality program.
Mm-hmm.
If they're undefeated, they should be getting one of the top 4 to me. And I'm sure we're going to get into this. But here's the one that really piqued my interest. Notre Dame is still independent.
Yep.
If Notre Dame is undefeated, has literally beaten every other team, hypothetically, in the playoffs, they still can be no better than 5.
Aren't they ACC and everything else?
I believe they are.
Which I still
in a majority. They used to be Big East in basketball.
I wish they would have gone to the Big Ten because that just made the most sense to me.
By location, it definitely does. But at the same time, you could argue that they could go to the Pac, even though they're not in the Pacific side. They do have a lot of rivalries on the West Coast as well because of the Rose Bowl.
Right, but for me, it's Michigan, it's Michigan State, it's Ohio State. Mm-hmm. It just makes more sense to me that way.
Oh, no, it 100% is what they, and I have a feeling they're going to wind up caving. I really believe they're going to wind up caving on, like, there will be some deal for them to join the Big Ten, but maintain NBC. That's how it's got to work.
I think that's really, to me, that's the deal you make. You join a conference to keep your NBC money because how long have they been with NBC?
I don't know. I haven't been alive that long, and I don't know if my dad has either.
Reinforcing my point.
My point being is, I'm pretty sure the advent of television matches the timeline.
Yeah. Eastern Conference NHL standings. This is where it gets weird for me because I want to talk to you because you are our resident expert on all things gambling.
Okay.
Now remember, I take all of this from Yahoo Sports, which
I didn't expect gambling to be in this, but now I'm even more on board.
You have chastised me for on more than one occasion, and that's okay.
I don't believe I
Uh,
chastised you.
in the Atlantic Division, the Ottawa Senators are
Mhm.
currently 29 points back
Mhm.
after 57 games. They are plus 25,000 to win the championship. Stay with me.
Ugh.
They are 1 point behind the Montreal Canadiens.
Ha ha ha.
Montreal, who has won, they're on a 1-game heater.
Mhm.
Ottawa's dropped 2.
Okay.
Montreal is plus 50,000, and they're only 1 point ahead of them. But Buffalo is 4 points ahead of them, and it's back to 25,000.
There's multiple levels to this, but I want you to ask the question as you want it responded to, please.
How is it that Montreal is double the odds when they're ahead of Ottawa?
In that same scope, what you'll look at is many different factors, whether it be injuries. Montreal may have just lost a big player, then they happen to be ahead. The other factors that you have in that, especially with the NHL, because you can't gain points or ground just by sitting there. You have to either win or get into an overtime loss. So there's a chance that they have less games remaining on their schedule, or their remaining games are that much tougher. Now, the big one in that scope is that might have also been a panic move by a book that's like, look, Montreal has a history of when they're not in it, they wind up selling players at the trade deadline. So they're trying to hedge their bets before any quality is gone from the roster. So, in that same scope, they may have more movable or injured pieces to their team that they don't have hopes of coming up. Whereas a team like Ottawa, who has been in the cellar or near it for a few seasons now, may have some young talent coming up from like the AHL or something of its ilk that might infuse them with some juice at the end of the year, some youthly fervor or something along those lines. But at the same time, when you're this low, you're pretty much guaranteed they're not getting into the playoffs, let alone making a run. But that's one of the cool things about the NHL. If you're looking at the odds, you'll see a clear line, probably about 2/3 of the way up the standings, where that number drops significantly.
Well, I'm glad you
And
said
that's
that.
the qualifiers.
Buffalo, who is 4 points ahead of Montreal, is at plus 25,000. They are 9 points behind the Lightning, who are 2,500 plus. So it drops 90% at that point.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it's just the qualifier of anything that hits the plus and thousands like that, they're not expected to make the playoffs for one reason or another. Once you get to that 2/3 of the way, because of how deep the NHL playoffs are, and the fact that there is a lot of parity in that league, which is why it might arguably be the best playoff structure of any sport. Not from a function standpoint, because it's not very different than others, but from the fact that the NHL runs hot and cold, no pun intended, that like a team that is an 8 seed, in theory, could make a deep run. But they don't have an 8 seed anymore because of their 4 pods now.
Can I blow your wheels off a little bit on that?
Possibly.
There is only one team in the Eastern Conference right now that is less than plus 1,000.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
You said that if they're in 4 digits or more, they don't expect them to make the playoffs. There is only one team in the entire Eastern Conference that is less than 4 digits. Did you mean 5, perhaps?
No. I was referring into the thousands. So anything with 3 zeros and then numericals would be more often than not that what they're not expecting.
And I don't say this to correct you, and please don't.
No, go for it.
But there are 2 that are right at the point.
Okay.
There's 1 below, and there's 2 that are right at the point. So there's 4 that are right at the point, because you've got Tampa Bay is now 3 back on Detroit. Detroit's won 6 in a row, by the way, quietly.
Yeah.
Detroit now 2 points back on Toronto. Toronto right now at plus 1,300.
Well, Detroit also had one of those classic intangible injections of spirit over the last few games. I don't know if you
And
saw about this,
Detroit at plus 6,000. So it's not like it's out of the realm.
but do you know what I'm referring to with Detroit?
I'm not for sure.
The Chelios infusion. They actually retired his jersey, even though he was spent a majority with the Blackhawks.
Saw something about that, maybe? I've
But
heard in the last few days.
To tell you why Chelios is one of the all-time greats and why hockey is so amazing in that scope, it was his retirement ceremony, and all he did was pump up the guys on the team, saying
Didn't like
there's
him.
a number of guys who could be there.
Didn't like him when he played, but I respect him now.
Well, the question is, did you not like him because he was that good?
He played a little dirty.
He was a defenseman. They're supposed to. But as one of my favorite sports quotes of all time, as Ty Cobb said, bad players don't get booed. Only the greats truly get hate.
Let me ask you this, because I'm very intrigued by this plus odds thing, because you really got you've got like I've got like the beautiful mind thing going right now as I'm looking at all these numbers.
Is it bad that I'm picturing Galifianakis in The Hangover?
No, because you wouldn't be the first and you won't be the last.
I'm not talking about for you. I'm talking about the numbers. That's where I go.
So as I'm looking at the NHL overall, it's, of course, it's all over the place. There's no scale, right?
Right.
Would you, given what I told you just a moment ago, and again, I if you took it any kind of way, I apologize, was not my intent. Because I could see how you'd be like, dude, why are you crapping on my parade?
I didn't.
Okay, I
so
appreciate that.
Not necessary.
I appreciate that you know me that well.
Yeah.
Would it be safe to say, based on those, if I look at, Don's checking in for sir.
I had to throw that one up. What's up, Don?
God bless you, Don. Okay, wheel. Because I'm looking at the numbers in both conferences. Would if I just gave you a couple of stats based on the odds?
Okay.
Would that I don't want to use the word force, but would that lean you to say one conference is stronger than the other, or is it that just because that's where it's at today?
I'd have to say it's just where it's at today, but there is definitely a level, and allow me to take the explanation from earlier. You were talking about Ottawa being better odds to win the cup despite being lower in the standings. It's the same concept of how hard is your road. Correct.
Yeah, it was.
But what I'm saying is, yes.
Go ahead.
But what I was saying was that Ottawa had better odds to win, even though they were lower in the standings.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. So in that same concept, it's the parity argument. It's really the parity argument, and there is probably more Western Conference teams that have a genuine shot to get hot and make a run in the playoffs. I mean, in the Eastern Conference, you might have a handful of teams that you could genuinely make an argument, and even that is still 3/4 of the teams that are going to make it. Whereas in the Western Conference, as long as your name isn't the San Jose Sharks, you probably have a shot.
And see, like I said, this fascinates me because, that's why one of the many, 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 many reasons I love that you're my co-host, because these kind of things, they fascinate me. And you, with the depth of knowledge that you have in these things, even though, we make our jokes and things of that nature, your knowledge of these things makes me enjoy sport that much more.
It is definitely my Rain Man niche.
I've like, for years and years and years, I've seen things like this, but it doesn't resonate. It never resonated with me until you and I started hanging out, and then you started explaining these things to me. It's the way it all works is just fascinating, and that's why I will spend 10 minutes on this. I don't care.
Yeah,
it's our show. We can do whatever we want.
It's also interesting compared to sometimes it's not that great.
All right, we are. Did I finish? Oh no, we were at Detroit, 2 back on Toronto. Toronto now 8 back on Boston. Boston now tied with Florida. Florida had right now is 8-2-0 in their last 10. They're holding on. This team is playing a lot of really good hockey, but again, is there? Hey, and here's Russ. Guys, Russ, good to see you, brother. To me, My favorite play, because take the NFL, because the NFL is what it is.
Right.
Of the other three, the NHL playoffs are my favorite.
Absolutely.
Because you can just kind of squeeze your way in and all of a sudden just get on a heater. There's just something about the NHL, and home ice means nothing. That's another thing I love about it. Wow. Don says Alex is going to put him to. Oh, that's not cool, bro.
Yeah, but there's also a button that makes that easy because it's getting deleted.
Oh, why would you? That's not cool. In the other division, which is
The Metropolitan Division.
Thank you, sir. The Columbus Blue Jackets.
I like how we have the spare checking in at 2 a.m. and I have to cover his stuff right then.
Easy. He'll be back next week.
Yeah, he will.
Speaking of which, I got to call you after the show. Oh, Don even put the Metropolitan Division in. Yes. Oh, I haven't had this much fun in a long time. There's some stuff I got to talk to you about off air.
Okay.
So I will be calling you as soon as we're done. We love you too, brother. We're so glad you guys. I've seen the post that Don's been having from over there. It looks incredible, and we're looking forward to having him back next week. So, in the Metropolitan Division, Columbus is worse than Ottawa.
Well, it's Columbus. Of course it's terrible.
Yeah, that's right. I forget about that sometimes, but I love that logo.
It is a good logo. I
do
still hate them, but
I love that they played at the Horseshoe.
Mm.
I these outdoor games, I love it. I don't care who.
No. I absolutely love that
because they're picking great venues. Because when it was here, they did it at the Cotton Bowl. Rachel, friend of the show, Rachel was there.
Did we talk about the random screens that threw me off when I was watching the outdoor in Seattle?
Mm-mm.
So they've put angled giant boards on either side of the rink.
Okay.
That are literally just the logo and the number of goals. But because it was only seen in quick passes, I wasn't sure what was going on. And I was like, that's really cool because there's no board over the rink for them. There's no Tron in the middle. So that makes perfect sense to let people know in different areas.
I saw a video on the Book of Face the other day that showed how they reset the base, like put the new logos on underneath the ice and stuff. I found that fascinating. I enjoyed that so much. Columbus is 14 points back on the Islanders, who are tied with Don's Penguins. Penguins have won 3 in a row, by the way. They are both a point behind the Capitals. Capitals are a point back on New Jersey. The Devils now 5 back on the Flyers. The Flyers now 13 back on Carolina. The Rangers are running away with this division right now.
Yeah.
They are 7 points up on the Rangers, and we only have 22 games to go. I did see that Russell said that he went and saw Gene Watson last night. That's a legend right there. We've been getting some crazy shows in this town lately.
It's Dallas.
I dig it. In the Western Conference Central Division, the Chicago Blackhawks are still pretty bad. They could double their points and still be 9 back of first place. They have 35 points for those of you playing the home game. They are, 16 points back on the Coyotes. The Coyotes now 9 back on Minnesota. Minnesota's a point back on St. Louis. The Blues are 5 back on Nashville. Boy, whew. I don't know why I said Seattle. It's in the other conference. No, we're just in the other division.
You got caught on the St. Louis and the Fanaticals.
Yeah, let's try that again. The Predators now, they're 11 back on Colorado. Colorado's 2 back on the Stars. The Stars now tied with Winnipeg for first place because they've dropped 2 and Winnipeg's won 4 in a row. By the way,
actually made me think of something. So when we wrap up the NHL, I have a question for you.
Go ahead. This is the perfect.
No, it's not hockey related. That's why I want to compartmentalize it.
I also saw the other day Patrick Waugh had a birthday because they do birthdays on PTI. Did not know he was coaching.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's kind of a surprise that he's back coaching since the last stint he had ended very, we'll say poorly.
Okay. I haven't heard Patrick Waugh's name in a long time. Didn't his kid make it to the NHL too?
Same name, not related.
Oh, I thought it was
that Brandon Waugh is. I don't believe.
No, I thought that he had a son that made it.
I will double check.
Please do. In the Pacific Division, the San Jose Sharks You want to? This is not part of North America's favorite game show, Alex. But would you like to guess how many points out of first place they are?
Oh, out of first place? Could you tell me who's in first place for their division again?
That would be Vancouver.
And they're playing really well. I'm gonna guess 50.
That is exactly right. They are 50 points out of first.
Oh my god.
They're 8 back on Anaheim. Anaheim is 18 points back on the Kraken. Seattle 2 back on Calgary. Calgary is 5 back on Los Angeles. The Kings are 4 back on Edmonton. Edmonton is a point back on Vegas. Vegas now 10 back on Vancouver. Yes, sir.
Both of Patrick Waugh's sons, Frederick and Jonathan, played for the Quebec Ramparts when Waugh was a coach there, but neither came close to the NHL, including Jonathan leaving to pursue a music career.
Frederick sounds familiar. That name's maybe I saw something on like the Frozen 4 or something. I don't know.
Possibly.
I love that they call it that. All right. It's time to play North America's favorite game show. What is the goal differential for the San Jose Sharks? And we are in about a 30-second delay, so I'm going to wait for anybody that's in the chat room to take a shot.
I'm gonna go with the century mark because they've been steadily crawling up there, and I think it might be a little too high, but I'm gonna give them the century mark.
Right at 100.
You know what? I'll be sneaky and do 99.
All right. Russ says minus 92.
Okay.
Wait and see. Maybe see if anything else happens here. Because we've got a couple of people in here right now. All right. The San Jose Sharks have played 57 games. They are 15, 37, and 5. They have 35 points. No, they're 48 points. No, I'm sorry, they're 52 back in the division. They are 9-17-2 at home. They are 6-20-3 on the road. They've lost 4 in a row. They're 3-6-1 in their last 10. The goal differential for the San Jose Sharks, Alex, you went the wrong way. Because they're at minus 102.
Oh, wow.
So that's like a minus 10 in the last week. Because weren't they like minus 92 last week?
I thought it was like 95.
They're going the wrong way. That's all I'm saying.
Well, they're going the right way if there's a generational talent in the draft.
Yeah. I think Chicago's trying real hard, too, because they got the same number of points and have played 2 more games. And they're at minus 85. So there's that. All right, let us now go ahead.
It looks like Frederick Waugh actually wound up playing in Allen as a visitor a couple of games.
No, maybe that's why I heard
that might have been the crossover, but he retired in 2020.
Speaking of things that are local, I posted this earlier on my social media. The Dallas Sidekicks are doing a tribute night to friend of the show, Captain Ameridad, Daniel Calhoun. They're having a bunch of cosplayers come up. They're going to do something at halftime. So if you're going to the Dallas Sidekicks game and you have any form of cosplay, make sure you go out there. The details are on the Dallas Sidekicks Facebook page. You did want to ask me a question, sir, as soon as we finish with hockey.
So what made me think of it was you were talking about the Nashville Predators.
Mm-hmm. Love that one.
Getting into something a little bit different. Have you seen the talks sparking up about expansion teams in Major League Baseball?
I have not.
So apparently there has been discussions of late that the goal for baseball was always to get to 32, where they are currently at 30.
Okay.
If you had to pick 2 cities to get from 30 to 32, because traditionally baseball has expanded not just singularly, because balancing American and national leagues, what 2 cities that do not have professional baseball teams right now do you think should get them?
1, Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City needs a second professional team of some form. They have more than earned it. or anywhere in the state of Oklahoma. Russ's beloved town of Tulsa would be great. Now, granted, it's not a major market, but you didn't put that limitation on it either.
No. That's I did not want to put that limitation on it.
If I had to pick a second one, a bigger market team that I think deserves one would be Indianapolis.
Oh, that's a good one.
Just because
there's a long history of baseball in Indiana too.
Well, and the fact that they've only got 2 of the 4.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, they don't have hockey, which is weird because you would think hockey would be pretty big up there. But it just off the top of my head, those would be the first 2.
Yeah, because I was going through this exercise myself because allegedly there is 2 very clear front runners.
Okay.
And I don't know how I feel about one of them, but the other one is Nashville, which has shown time and time and time and time again that it is a great sports city. As respectfully as I can say, I don't see Oklahoma being successful for anything. But the other one that is in the very front-running lead for an expansion team is Salt Lake City. And I was wondering how you'd feel about that as the governor.
Well, as the de facto governor of Utah, as we have said it many times on this show, I think it would be good for our economy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I would need to look at the true economics of that because I don't know how well the Jazz does, which is their only team.
Jazz does very well.
There would, Colorado plays outside, so you can't really talk about the weather of it all. I could see it, but I feel like there's other cities that I would pick before it.
You know the really interesting one that's been circling in my head, and I don't know viability to it?
Go ahead.
San Juan.
Oh, so you want to include the territories?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, because the concept is they're still the Toronto Blue Jays. So
yeah,
there's a genuine part of me that would lean towards give Montreal a team back, but there's a reason they're not there.
Is Puerto Rico on Eastern time?
Yes, I believe it is.
So there's not that issue.
Right. It's just a international travel aspect, which is from Puerto Rico to Miami to anywhere, much like Toronto to anywhere.
Or you go to the other side of the country, the Trailblazer, by the Salt Lake City logic, Portland would be a decent town. You kind of
my brain immediately goes to Vegas, but that's already happening.
Well, the wheels are starting to get wobbly on that too. From what I've been hearing
it's
a couple of weeks.
I don't think they've actually gotten wobbly. I think it was the mayor of Las Vegas trying to be considerate to the city of Oakland and saying, no, it would have been great for them to stay there. And people grabbed onto that snippet and ran with it, even though that's not what was intended by the statement.
And there's going to have to be a 30 for 30 on this specific one.
Oh, absolutely.
Because almost any other move outside of the Baltimore Colts, this story has been fascinating. And I really hope we get a 30 for 30 out of it because especially, or just the history of teams trying to go to Vegas, if nothing else, because it's crazy. All right,
the other one I was thinking of that might be interesting, and it's completely random, and for no other reason than the idea that you might be able to have a cool backdrop to the stadium, put a team in Baja. Just watch that completely go off. The Tijuana Tornadoes or something.
Russ says that Tulsa did have a USFL team, the Oklahoma
Outlaws, I believe.
Which, remember, we're only 4 weeks away from that.
That is true.
It's kicking off. We did get some very sad news. For those of you that may not know, Alex and I are both students of stand-up comedy, have been most of our lives, and we lost a legend. Richard Lewis, who just, from the first time I saw him do stand-up, I was in. And when I was in high school, I think it was Wednesday night, I would have dinner with one of my mentors and his wife at their house, and we would eat dinner, and then we would watch Doogie Howser and Anything But Love back to back. I loved that show so much. He was absolutely a creative genius comedically. He knew how to write. We know that he had been fighting some health issues for a few years that kept him off at least I think a full season of Curb at one point.
Yeah.
Just an absolute legend. I was a huge fan. Alex, is there anything you want to add to that? Because man,
you know, interestingly enough, I feel like all stand-up comedy was ruined for me at one point because the first three that I saw were, I believe in this order, Robin Williams, Richard Lewis, George Carlin.
wow.
And for Richard Lewis to stand up among those two is just it speaks to his quality, because there was something like George Carlin had the biting cynicism. Robin Williams had the bombastic. Richard Lewis just had this, I don't want to call it a character because that's who he was, but he had this way of delivering that never made you feel quite attacked, but had points to it. Like there was just something about his delivery and the intelligence behind what he said. And I one time actually upset a friend when I said, yeah, Richard Lewis is just who Dennis Miller wishes he could be. And I think very highly of Dennis Miller, but that also should stack rank it for you in my point. But Larry David had a very, very amazing write-up, a very heartfelt write-up regarding Richard Lewis, and like a couple of the factoids that blew my mind on that. They were born 3 days apart in the same hospital and were friends for their entire lives. That's crazy to me.
And Jamie Lee Curtis put up a picture. Russ talks about him as John and Robin Hood Men of Tights. That's why I was smiling a moment ago. Jamie Lee Curtis just put a picture of them, a promo photo from Anything But Love, right next to the lyrics to the theme of that show, which I thought was really cool. Again, I always like to think he had a quiet frenzy. Stage. You knew in his brain he was going a mile a minute.
I was going to say duck on the pond.
He was able to get it from here to here in a way that could still get to the audience and get the laugh, but he could keep the pace of the audience. And I always thought that was the part of his brilliance.
But like with him and Larry David, it's the brilliance thing is they both had that same biting cynicism available, but where Larry David comes across as neurotic, Richard Lewis was always like, let me take a minute. This might be a little crazy, but I'm going to say it in a way that we're on the same side, even if we disagree.
Big fans, both of us, and he will be missed. Rumors circulating this week that Access TV will be branding, could be as soon as the fall, may not be till first of the year, to Anthem.
Meh.
Just stay HDNet. Like that said who you were.
It's one of those where make it make sense or just shut up about it.
And go to streaming services for Lord's sake.
I'm sorry, what was that?
For the Lord, for the sake of Pete, as was once said in Short Circuit, go to streaming services.
Yeah.
Because I can't get it because I got YouTube TV. John can't because it got Uverse.
I can't. I don't know if I can. Hulu.
No, they're not on any streaming services at all.
Right, but what I'm saying is that we cover the basis, and there's only one of us that can.
CBS has renewed The Young and the Restless for 4 more years.
How many years does that make it?
As old as me, 55 by the time that contract's up.
God.
2027 to 2028.
Okay. You know what? Is there a more defined, like, if you could buy stock in soap operas, how much would you throw at that? Because it is the standard.
That's one of the few that's left.
But what I'm saying is the longevity, the blue chip status for TV.
The business model on that is always fascinating because they do 3 to 4 weeks at a time.
Oh yeah.
Like what you're watching tomorrow was recorded probably right at first of the year.
And a number of them shot very similar. We've talked about it on the show before about the telenovela style where they have the earpiece in and are just going.
And taking a cue from something else they did in the fall, they will be airing on CBS. They will be airing season 1 of Tulsa King.
Nice. Okay,
They're
I still
taking
have to watch
one
that.
of their streaming shows and moving it to the network while
Mhm.
in the post-strike era we're catching up. Had a really good conversation about that the other night. Hulu, speaking of what Alex said earlier, they just keep stacking the deck for Only Murders in the Building. Do you see who else they announced this week?
I believe I did, but hit me with it.
Eugene Levy, baby. He's
Yes.
Eugene Levy, Martin Short, that's a reunion, and Steve Martin on the end. Okay. Like, you're limiting my reasons to not catch up on this show.
But I'm still concerned with the same thing I said. Are we adding too many people to this television version of the NWO?
HBO Max said that Wonka will start streaming tomorrow, even though they're on another theatrical run. And if you haven't watched it, it will be available to you on Max tomorrow. Alex?
If you go on Max, it says
Next
March
8th. You're right. It's next Friday. I wrote the run sheet and the word next was there and my eyes skipped over. NBC Peacock. We have another member of the cast for Suits LA. If you saw the first Purge, Lex Scott Davis is your female lead for that.
Yeah, she was very good in that. And it was one of those where first Purge, horrible movie. She was pretty good in it, actually.
I actually saw the first one. Actually, I think I saw the first two.
That's probably about where you can stop and be good.
And the first one had one of the biggest, are you kidding me, not in a good way moments that I've seen in film in a long time.
Please elaborate.
Spoiler alert for a movie that's 20 years old. You get to the end. They're all sitting at the table. And Lena Headey's like, I'm not going to kill you. And I'm like, let me make sure I'm clear on this, because you're going to do this all again in a year. When it comes around, they're going to come for you again. Yeah. I did not enjoy the ending of that film.
I feel like even Lena Headey would be looking at it based on her, let's call it her type casting, just looking at it going, I'm going to say effing what?
Played a great Sarah Connor, though. I'll tell you that much.
Name something she didn't do well.
I'm angry that show didn't get another season, because the way they left the cliffhanger on that, I was like, oh. And Shirley Manson playing a T1000? Are you kidding me?
Well, the other one in that scope of movies that did not get nearly enough credit. Did you ever see Dread with Carl Urban?
It's in my queue. It is in my queue on Prime Video, but I don't know. I've heard wonderful things. I have no reason to say
I unabashedly, and let me put an asterisk on this, because you know how Carl and I are connected. Even if it wasn't him, I would still love that movie unabashedly. It is phenomenal. And Lena Headey as Mama was, oh my God, terrifying in the best of ways.
I love her.
I do too.
Netflix has renewed The Lincoln Lawyer for season 3.
I am still surprised by that. I loved the movie. I haven't watched a moment of the show.
My wife really likes the show.
Okay.
So, here's something you don't hear us talk about, I think, ever on this show. So this could be the second first, because while I was waiting for you, I was saying I don't think we've ever done a show on Leap Day before.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
PBS has renewed All Creatures Great and Small for seasons 5 and 6. It is one of their most popular shows.
It's PBS. Keep it going.
Made possible by viewers like you.
Yep.
Prime Video has said the final season of Alex Rider they're going to air on Freevee. It will not be on Prime Video. Their third and final season for that show. Which there were rumors that Freevee might be going away, but after Amazon laid off a bunch of people, but Amazon's like, no, it's staying right where it is. And Starz has renewed.
I believe the concept on that one was whether or not it was going to get absorbed.
Starz will be airing, has renewed MF for season 5. It'll be lowercase m, lowercase f.
I'm sorry, could you say that one more time? You cut out a little bit.
Starz has renewed BMF for season 4.
Thank you.
I'm just going to say this up front. The list of DVD and Blu-ray new releases for next week is literally nothing of consequence on TVs or film. So
wow.
Only I've got movie new release tomorrow will be Dune Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Getting very, very good reviews overall. I am not ashamed.
I am sorry, everybody. I had something come up. I couldn't make it to the screening, so that's on me for the miss.
I still have not seen the first one. I'm not ashamed to say that. It's not that I don't want to. It's just it was one of those pandemic things where I was just like, I get to it.
It's really good, and the fact that they're saying that this one's even better. Oh my god, I can't wait.
Let's see. Just one quick tech talk. This might be from the department of they probably want this one back. Have you seen this Wendy's story from this week?
Yes. Oh, I was mad. I was mad at Wendy's, and you know I love Wendy's.
Yeah, I've eaten there 3 times in the last week. It was my very first job when I was 14, 441 Atlantic, store 109, represent.
And you know what? In that same vein, I miss the sunroom.
We never got a super bar at mine, and that made me sad.
Oh,
do you remember the super bar? Because that
yes,
you were young when that was a thing.
Yeah, because you had the salad and the potatoes.
And and you also had pasta and Italian. You had pasta.
Oh, there was no pasta when I was there. The only thing there was the salad and the potato fixings.
Then you also had a nacho bar and you had a pasta bar with it too.
Yeah, that's nope. That's a nope for me.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. Their CEO comes out earlier this week and says in 2025, since we have digital media boards, we're going to be experimenting with raising prices at peak times.
Surge pricing is the term.
So trying to use the Uber model, which basically I could be right behind you in line and pay $5 more for a hamburger than you did because you got there before they changed the menu board. Now, as of today, they are walking that back and going the opposite direction of saying prices will drop in non-peak times. However, you're still going to raise prices at some point. Come on, Wendy's. Dave Thomas has an honorary high school diploma from my high school.
And the entire internet, and I apologize to our British viewers, just does.
I was just like, really, bro? I mean, there's no such thing as bad publicity, but this doesn't help you.
Yeah, no kidding.
Although a big fan of those baked potatoes. Had one the other day.
Oh, always good. Consistently good. Even though, spoiler alert, microwaved.
Well, when I worked there, they actually had an oven, and they were in those ovens for 5 hours.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, a number of them have switched over to a. Interesting factoid you learn in restaurants when you're on a short pinch: if you throw butter, salt, pepper on a potato that has been washed, wrap it in Saran wrap, and then put it in the microwave, you can actually bake a potato in short term. That way, it keeps everything inside. Then pull the plastic off, and sometimes.
Well, I had a chili cheese potato, and normally this one by my house, it's not on the menu. I got it through.
There you go.
App let me order a chili cheese potato, and it was delightful. Because we can't do an episode of the show and not talk about food at some point.
Because one of us doesn't eat until after, or both.
I haven't eaten. I had.
Oh, I have. That's what I was saying.
I had a small batch of chips before I got in there, and they were the crab seasoning chips, which I.
Oh, you are a big fan of that.
Let's get into wrestling headlines and another moment. We lost a couple of people since we were on the air last. Virgil passed away the other day. We want to send it out. The man.
Say it how you say it.
He was a great second banana. I mean, his stuff with DiBiase alone, the NWO stuff.
Nobody was more over than Virgil turning on the $1 Million Man.
Yeah.
At that point, nobody was more over.
And one of the OGs. Who, in my opinion, hopefully will get his due. Ole Anderson, one of the original 4 horsemen. To me, The only one outside of those 4 that I count is Wyndham.
Yeah.
Those are the OGs. Even Luger's on the fringe for me. I understand why they brought him in.
Because he needed it.
But those 5 were the guys for me.
Yeah. Now, the other interesting thing is with Sean coming in and not having been as versed in our history, was explaining, well, why was this guy important? Because I haven't heard the name, and going into it. And the one note that perked her up was explaining back in the day where bad guys had to be ready to legit fight fans. And I said, without a doubt, take Andre out of it because of size purely. If you gave me 2 guys to protect me in a bar fight, it's Harley Race and Ole Anderson. Those are the 2.
You're getting a chat room, sir. With a nickname I have never heard before.
A flashback and a half. What's up, Camps? I was actually the best man in his wedding years ago.
I saw that. Yeah, I'm like, I've never heard that name used before.
That goes way back. It was the Barn D-O double G.
Oh, I love it. But yeah, Ole, Minnesota Wrecking Crew.
Mm-hmm.
And you could, back then, you legit believed he and Arn were related because they looked at like they favored each other.
There's still a part of me. There's still a part of me that denies that they're ever not related.
Oh, man.
Oh, put a pin in that, Nick. We're going to have a note on something connected to Haku here in a minute. But that is a good poll.
No Surrender was a thing?
Sort of.
EY is your number 1 contender for Sacrifice, which, by the way, is next Friday night.
Yeah.
PCO and Khan never got off the ground because there was a DQ, which why wasn't that no DQ to begin with? You have new Knockouts champs. MK Ultra did get the belts back in that. Moose wins the No Surrender match after Kushida throws in the towel. This was a strange match.
Well, when you have, and you put it wonderfully when we talked about it before, how do you have a no surrender match when the only way to win is surrender?
Yeah, because if nobody surrendered, that match would still be going.
I mean, if you have no DQ, makes sense. No holds barred, makes sense. No surrender, you win by surrender. Question, why?
It was just very strangely booked. And then Mustafa Ali is your new X Division champion. And they're
the first person to win the X Division title in his debut match.
They're apparently doing something big tonight on Impact. I'll be watching it tomorrow because it's on Access TV and they don't hit the app until way later.
But I'm happy to see him getting shine and getting a platform. Dudes
Izzy James is your new ROW television champion. This was a very interesting situation. Their guy, that's their GM now, he calls out for a contract signing.
Mm-hmm.
So champion comes out, Izzy comes out, and basically the guy's like, you know what? I don't want to wait till our big event in a couple of weeks. We're going to do this. No, hold on. There's the way he did it was.
Yeah.
He goes, we're going to do this tonight. And you both are in your gear, so we're going to do it right now. And he pulls the tablecloth and he goes, and it's a tables match. I was like, okay, let's do that. And Izzy James is your now Reality of Wrestling television champion. It was a good match. They still got to work on the production.
But it's such indie mudfest of a show.
I'm kind of here for it. Like, it's entertain me. Well, that was entertaining.
That's fair.
Give
me something I'm not expecting.
Nick Nemeth is your new IWGP Global Champion. He beat David Finlay.
Hate that name still.
Show wins his first IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship over El Desperado. And Matt Riddle is your New Japan Television Champion with the square belt.
Over Tanahashi. Hate it so much. I mean, I'm happy for Nick Nemeth, but he should be further up that card already. But Riddle just popping like, okay, yeah, you're making a note. I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the God, what was the term that they called it? Anyways, but it's essentially they hotshot a Western talent, a Gaijin bump.
Okay. I know what you're
Uh,
talking about. Yes.
Yeah, a Gaijin bump. I wouldn't be surprised if he winds up being a transition champion to somebody else within a couple of months, or at least maybe I'm just hoping. Because I liked Matt Riddle when he was part of Catchpoint. He was fun with Randy Orton. Nothing else he did really stuck with me. And especially when the only thing I have to hear about him is that Sean refers to him as Fun Yundies.
There is one thing that
Uh-oh.
entertains you greatly, and it was the Sleet Ace.
Okay, yes.
I very much enjoyed the Sleet Ace.
But to borrow a phrase from somebody who has been on this show many times, a good entrance does not make a good wrestler.
You're not wrong. I didn't say that. I just said it was something that entertained you.
Yes, I was entertained by the random animals and the slides.
I'm very proud of myself that I made it all the way to middle of the afternoon Sunday and watched all of Elimination Chamber without spoilers.
I'm sorry, you watched what?
I'm sorry, Elimination Chamber.
Okay.
Without spoilers. I was shocked that because I stayed off social media. I popped on to wish happy birthdays and kept it moving.
Okay.
Like I didn't even do random things that bring me joy because I didn't want something popping up at the top of my Instagram feed and messing with me. I avoided everything. My daily email I get from Wrestling Online Newsletter, I said, nope, not watching it, not reading it.
I only had one thing spoiled for me, and in the grand scheme of things, number one, it wasn't surprising. Number two, wasn't really a big factor in the situation.
This to me was a plea that was logical booking. It was a very uneven card for only 5 or 6 matches.
It felt very house show-esque to me.
It was fun.
But it was fun.
I was entertained.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it's not, it wasn't elimination chamber. It just, nothing surprised me. I did like that R-Truth was in Austria.
Yeah.
I very much enjoyed that.
Well, the other thing I was trying to remember, did they say it on the broadcast or did I see it somewhere else after that it turned out that the main event was both people who were born in Australia?
I don't think I heard that.
Nia Jax was actually born in Australia before the family moved to Hawaii.
Oh, really? I did not.
So that main event wound up 2 Australian borns against each other.
And if you're Corey Graves, that's one way to spend your birthday, isn't it?
And that's also fair. Also, but my favorite moment did not happen on the show. Did you see what happened between Indy Hartwell and Grayson Waller, who we know have known each other for a very long time?
I did not.
So they had a very sweet moment. I didn't see if it was before the show, during the show, or when it occurred, but at the stadium where they were peeking out from a side area, like where wrestlers can see the actual venue rather than just watching on a monitor. And there was just a quick back and forth that wasn't caught by the microphone that was essentially like a, how cool is it that we've gotten here? And there was a big hug, love you too. And somebody posted it, and I believe it was WWE Australia. And Grayson Waller's response was, man, AI is getting crazy.
And speaking of things that were posted, shout out to Bronson Reed, who was supposed to be in there, but he was not because of the birth of his child. So congratulations to his family.
And kudos to Triple H for the exact statement of, you were exactly where you were supposed to be. Agreed. Respect to the boss on that.
It was announced Monday night, and I don't know how I feel about this, but I'm not a gamer, so I guess I don't have a dog in the fight. McAfee and his entire crew will be playable in 2K24.
I'm okay with part of that. But that sounds like the most McAfee of things of like, oh, you're going to put me in the game? Can we get these guys too?
That's probably what happened.
Well, my favorite one, though, is, did you see the valet now that it will be available from the American Nightmare Pack?
No.
So, obviously, with a valet, usually doesn't get involved, anything along those lines. You can have Pharaoh.
I was hoping you were saying that.
The all-white Siberian Husky, who my dogs are big fans of. They have, neckerchiefs to prove it, is available in the American Nightmare Pack.
Your dogs who have neckerchiefs that you have posted and Cody has responded.
Yes. But actually, it was Brandy that responded.
Oh, the
but-
Brandalorian.
Same household, the Brandalorian. But the part I have in that same scope, if you were to pull on what would be involved in the American Nightmare pack out from just the current iteration of Cody Rhodes, would you choose Stardust and undashing Cody Rhodes?
I think that's part of a pack with it's those two, Dusty and somebody else. Like it's not
Billy Graham.
Is that Superstar Billy Graham?
Mhm.
Yeah, because that's what they've been advertising.
Right, but what I'm saying is I feel like I would have went with dashing Cody Rhodes to give him the mustache rather than the face mask of undashing.
Phantom of the Cody.
Yes, as undashing.
I know it's been a few weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
You've been doing this. I've got a couple of technical things I want to talk about in the presentations overall. I feel like you can really see the TKO influence because the opening to every show for the last couple of weeks has been people arriving to the arena.
Yep. The only thing they don't have is the UFC intro music.
Yeah. Well, and they, in my opinion, so take this for what you're paying for it, they have to back off on the out bumpers for every person before they go.
I'm okay with it. I am totally okay with it.
It's already lost its specialness for me.
Well, I don't think it's the concept of the specialness. It's more of it gives you something of this is why you want to stick around highlights, kind of. I'm okay with it because it's 4 seconds.
It looks cool. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. I just save it for when you need it.
Well, it's better than a fade out, in my opinion. So I think it's an improvement.
Cedric Alexander is now in a tag team with Ashanti the Adonis. So put that.
Get ready for the new Job Squad.
And no solo cups for the Profits, or was that just a Utah thing?
Oh no, I don't know that they've been using cups for a while now.
Okay. Because I just noticed it last Friday.
Yeah.
Raw was very lackluster. I have no notes on Raw at all.
Well, we're in the post plea dead zone. Plus, you think about it, it was their first live show back after everybody traveling from Australia.
NXT Roadblock is this coming Tuesday.
Yeah,
there was a vignette that said "See you soon" and then the Roadblock logo. I'm assuming because it was on a beach and written in the sand that's going to be the return of Sol Ruca.
That's what is currently the expectation. Who, interestingly enough, is Tyler Bates' significant other now.
I'm sorry, who?
Tyler Bate.
Thank you.
Yeah. But I will say this, though. For as
I are going to bring back the next time we're at a live show, it is the Tyler Bates song, and it is Talk to Us, because nobody's doing it.
Oh, it's happening Friday. It is happening Friday. I will try to get that over. But
you guys are going?
We've talked about this, yes. We're almost right behind. Actually, I think we're a few rows behind on the first riser behind announcing.
Nice.
So I will be trying to get that over as long as a certain somebody is there. But the other thing I wanted to say is we talk about how lackluster NXT is usually compared to Raw being a good show or SmackDown being a good show. NXT was actually a really good show this week.
Well, which is why, because I watched it on pseudo delay because I was actually home. Because I texted you and I was like, "Are you watching?" Because the show was that good, and I made sure not to say a word because a couple of things happened. Booker T returned, so he's back this week. He was actually pretty good this week. LA has been
I respect Booker T's career. I don't want him anywhere near a live microphone unless he's announcing his own match. That's my
LA
one.
Has texting me on a weekly basis to remind me that he can't stand Pat McAfee now. And I told him last week, I'm like, I can't defend it right now. I just can't.
Yeah.
We were all wrong about who those vignettes were for.
Well, I almost wonder if there's going to be more to it.
But did you read about how all that came together?
No.
So apparently that signing happened, for those of you that don't know, the vignettes for all of those white writing on black background was for Sean Spears, which nobody knew. Even when they rehearsed it, it was
was
Sean
Shawn.
standing in the ring. So by the time it hit and it was Shawn Spears, I was like, oh, because again, when you can take me off guard and you can entertain me, you get credit for that. I didn't see that coming. I didn't see it being him. I didn't even realize it was him. Now, in retrospect, the man's holding a chair, and that's the kind of hood he was wearing at the end of his AEW run. So if I had really been using my brain, or as my mother used to say, using my head for something besides a hat rack, maybe I would have figured it out at that point, but I like that I didn't until the lights came up.
Well, and unfortunately, that was the thing that was spoiled for me because somebody who will remain nameless messaged me to say, oh, wow, it was Shawn Spears. And my response was, what was Shawn Spears? And the explanation that it was the vignettes. And it's like, okay, fine, whatever, except for the fact that I was not surprised because there were rumors of him having already been re-signed or re-signing before the Rumble, that he was expected to be the number 10 entrant until his non-appearance clause had gotten extended by AEW for his time injured.
Fair enough.
And now, granted, all of that big asterisk with an allegedly on it, but there were already reports of him coming back to the company.
But
I'm very happy to see him because he works best in NXT. And he'll be exactly the kind of thing we talked about that was missing from that brand, because when that man is responsible for Cody Rhodes getting as good as he is, that's who you want working with younger talent. And especially with somebody like Ridge, who they see big main event status with, who's not there yet.
It was a
to
strange
be nice
promo.
about it.
It was kind of like, I wonder if they were making him sweat it out. I feel like that the promo was supposed to end a couple of minutes earlier, and he just kept going because they didn't kill the lights.
Yeah. Well, but it was also one of those ones where I almost wonder if it was a, to borrow Chase U's phrase, a teachable moment where they called the younger crowd around the monitors and said, now watch what happens. We're not going to kill the lights when he thinks it's going to be killed, and he's going to be a pro because that man is pro.
Somebody on Facebook today put up a video of Charlotte and Becky when they were first training at PC and doing dueling promos, which I thought was kind of fun. New Heritage Cup champion in one Charlie Dempsey.
That makes me so happy. It really makes me happy because I see a lot in Charlie Dempsey.
That was an impressive match.
Yeah. And you know what? Respect to Noam Dar being able to play from under, so to speak, whereas normally he's the one with the numbers advantage.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought there was more.
No. I was just leaving it at that. I want to wax poetic about how much I was like, Charlie Dempsey is Regal's kid. I don't know how much that kid has been amazing in everything I've seen him do so far, whether it be in Japan or here.
I liked how they did the reveal. Those three just stepping back. Let's talk about that ending, because you texted me and you were like, let me guess, Spears. I go, yeah, there's more. Wait till the end. And you had just gotten to this point. Let me say the last 10 minutes of NXT, in my opinion, was done brilliantly.
I agree.
Because now, and I called you last night when I was at the theater, and I said, now we know how the next month of this is going to go.
Yep.
But by the same token, this is one of those times where I know the destination. It's going to be D'Angelo Ilya at Stand and Deliver.
I don't agree with you.
Because Trick costs Mello. That match happens at Stand and Deliver. And I'm going to say Tony goes over because Ilya and Mello go up. And now you can have, like, what they have done with Tony D'Angelo as a character, because when this first happened, I was like, in this day and age,
we both bagged on him.
In this day and age,
bagged on every bit of this.
They have evolved this character in a way that's not as bigger than life as he was when they first came in with those vignettes. This, I can say now, put that belt on this man. He is great, and I am a fan, and I was wrong.
Well, I don't know that, if I may, I don't know that we were wrong. We were correct because it was too over the top when it started out. Now that he's kind of come into the idea of, that's right, I'm supposed to be a kingpin, a boss, the Don. You don't have to yell when you're in charge. You just have to.
That was one of my favorite.
That was so smooth.
When he
that was so incredibly smooth.
I was like, okay, that was a baller move. And whoever put that in the script, God bless you, and I'm here for you.
Well, but the other thing is I think Stax is starting to get that too, that he doesn't have to be so over the top. Rizzo is terrible at this point.
She's gotten better. Like when she
but
first,
that voice is so dumb.
I was like, let's tap the brake a little bit. She's starting to settle in a little better than she did when she first came in.
Well, but interesting note that I wanted to talk about was she's in the same vein for me as how I felt about Tiffany Stratton when they hot-shotted her to a title. And I was like, I don't see it. I don't see it. And Stratton has come leaps and bounds ahead of what we were seeing before that had me concerned. I'm 100% on board with her, especially on the main roster. She is doing amazing work. And I hope Adriana Rizzo proves me wrong in that scope as well. But dear God, I don't want to hear her talk at all. Until she gets whatever it is fixed in her sinuses or whatnot, I don't want to hear that, what sounds like the world's worst Sopranos impression.
Well, we'll see what happens at Roadblock this coming Tuesday. Mm-hmm. We are 3 days away from Revolution. And Meat
I don't
Madness
know that I can care that much.
Meat Madness is now an all-star scramble. So maybe I'm going to get something that I've missed for a very long time, but it's not for a championship that I'm aware of.
Well, there's still two people that haven't been revealed. So,
well, part of the problem I've been reading is, number one, they kept adding stipulations and it got out of control. And two, some of the people that they've had as participants aren't going to be able to make it to the show.
That doesn't surprise me.
So, allegedly, Forbidden Door will be at Arthur Ashe Stadium in June. They haven't officially
see that,
but they're apparently tap dancing, and they have applied for a trademark for AEW Dynasty, which is being hinted as an April pay-per-view.
Well, there's also the reports of Khan coming out and saying that his magic number for pay-per-views on the year is 9, which is going to be
better than 12.
Sorry?
Better than 12.
Well, but when you look at it, you have 3 of them that are going to be ROH dedicated, and then another 9? Or is that 6 and 3? Because the list I saw had 9 for AEW and 3 for Ring of Honor.
Well, at least I know I can get the Ring of Honor ones.
We'll see about that. They tend to pivot.
On Collision, Max Caster had his first flub in the entrance. He just kind of gave up on the rhyme and just gave Bowens the mic. He's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Hold on. We got to do our thing. It is time for your Adam Page lower third update from Dynamite this week. Not looking good. That was your Adam Page lower third update.
But that is another one of what I've been saying for weeks of, I don't care what Meltzer is going to say. I don't care what any of the dirt sheets say. They're now all pawns in this entire thing. They're literally being used
out for it too.
Yeah.
But
at the same time, I wonder if there is levels of, we'll give you real news, but you put this up front. We're not going to intentionally make you look stupid. You're going to be smart to it, but you're feeding the animals for us.
I think you're giving them too much credit.
I'm hoping that's the case, because otherwise, dear God, there's people still paying for toilet paper that's not comfy.
Really thought they would wait for the Rick turn until Sunday.
Or this could be all of a setup, because remember, he didn't hit him with the bat. He just thumbed the eyes, and then it was just from underneath, which isn't much for a 90-year-old man.
I didn't catch the homage in the locker room.
I'm sorry, the what now?
The bats hanging from the ceiling. Apparently, Sting did a huge promo in WCW like that.
Oh, okay.
somebody put the comparison up today, and I was like, and then he came down from the rafters.
Okay, that popped me. Yeah.
And I went, oh, they're doing the thing.
Well, because remember, he also said he was never going to do that again after what happened with Owen.
Right. And Schiavone just losing his mind like it was 1997 all over again.
Yeah. Now, before we get too far away from this, you did see the reports about Dynamite getting rebranded and redone after Revolution, correct?
Yeah, there's going to be a new set March 6th. I'm surprised they didn't wait a week and just do it at Big Business, but that's just me.
Well, I wonder if that's more of the test run for separate things, and then they add more to it for Big Business. But they have revealed how the new Dynamite logo is going to look. What did you think of that?
I have not seen it. You're more than welcome to share it.
Okay, let me see if I can find it real quick while
you're doing that. Ring of Honor last week, Taya Valkyrie, who faced Queen Aminata tonight in the quarterfinals of the Women's Television Championship Tournament. Red Velvet faces Layla Hirsch next. Abaddon faces Mercedes Martinez, and Billy Starks faces Diamante. But the first three faced enhancement talent, which I thought was weird for a tournament, but that's just me. And I have watched the first 45 minutes of tonight's Ring of Honor. I'll watch the rest of it after the show. I'm finding that's easier for me, so I don't have to sit through that and Impact on Friday mornings. Have you found it yet?
Oh, yes. I'm I'm trying to find the new stuff from Aspects. Okay, so the new logo. Do you have it on screen?
There it is.
It's a little bit fuzzy, but it kind of works. I'm kind of interesting. It plays into the color scheme of the opening a little bit better, but I don't know that I can call it a logo just because it's the entire thing.
It's a title card.
That's a better way to call it, but they've been referring to it as the new logo.
I like it. I dig it.
Yeah.
But I like how they're constantly evolving. You know?
Well, I give them credit for trying things. That was the big thing we talked about, even when people were bashing AEW for being sloppy or different aspects, because it's not that it wasn't sloppy in a number of areas, but they were at least trying different things. Not everything works. We fondly remember the Attitude Era, but there's a lot of it that was bad.
Yeah. Danhausen returns, and he went over Brandon Cutler. And
why wouldn't he?
Yeah. And Athena retained in that 2 out of 3 tables match, which has some very interesting spots in it. It's very entertaining. So, anything else that you've got that we need to talk about before we go?
I guess this is the one that I, after crapping on the dirt sheets myself, I did mention we were going to talk about something related to Haku. I'm surprised you didn't have this headline. Allegedly, Tama Tonga has signed with the company, with WWE. Now, that works perfectly to me because we're doing the blood brother angle between Rock and Roman's family, between High Chief and, oh my God, why am I drawing a blank? Anyways, the Anawai clan. But because Tama Tonga is Haku's son, but he is adopted. So there is that kind of same tangent that if we do wind up with the Roman side versus Rock side, Tama Tonga fits kind of perfectly into the Rock side as being part of the family, but only kind of. But there's still a genuine part of me that I feel like I'd rather have Gorillas of Destiny, and I don't know how much longer Tonga Loa has with New Japan.
Oh, you know how much of a fan I am of the Gorillas of Destiny.
Well, and to be honest, it may be 2 to 3 years off. We're not going to get Briscoes versus the Usos, but we could eventually get Gorillas of Destiny versus the Usos, and I am all for that.
Yes, please. Yes,
yeah.
Please. All right. Don should be back next week, so make sure you're here for that. Over there, you can scan that QR code, and that will take you to all of our social media, our website, www.theclubhousepodcast.com. Find out everything you need to know and some stuff you don't. Follow us Twitter and TikTok, our Clubhouse show. Everything else is the Clubhouse podcast. All 3 words in that order, or you will wind up somewhere else. You can follow me on all your social medias if you'd like. Everything is Yes That Rob Irvin. That is spelled ERVIN.
Acknowledge our link tree. But I am Vexploit on all social media. If you'd like to help out the show, you can scan that, get to our store, find a bunch of different shirts, a bunch of different color options within those shirts. And if you have any suggestions or an artist that wants to possibly get paid for a design, you can reach out to me at alex@theclubhousepodcast.com.
The official fact checker of Sooner Gator Productions. You check in earlier. He'll be back next week. He is Don Ford. You can follow him on Twitter at Igbunu, IGBUNUUU. Also, if you'd like us to come do our show live at your particular establishment, you can email him. He is don@theclubhousepodcast.com. You can email me questions, comments, concerns. I'm going to go pound sand. I am rob@theclubhousepodcast.com. Charlotte Marshall is on Pinterest because we are morally obligated to say that. Our normal show, Thursday nights, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, is your one-stop shop for all things sports, entertainment, pop culture, and professional wrestling. So until next week, for Alex, for Don, for the Empire, I'm Rob. Clubhouse is closed. Hi, Brittany Palmer.